This is not an advertisement. This is my teacup. Okay, so I am tackling how to build an effective website for your yoga business today. And that's a really big topic. And I'm going to try my best to give you as much value and kind of punch as I can in a half an hour. Because I like to keep these live chats to 30 minutes so that I'm respecting your time, and they're just manageable that way. You can put them on and take half an hour while you're driving to or from, your yoga class, or if you've got half an hour where you're sitting checking emails and you've got it on in the background and you're kind of digesting it, then that's good too. So half an hour, I'm going to try and give you as much value as I can. And we're going to tackle a lot of things from planning out your website, into how to make better content, how to create better content, how to create better flow on your website for your user design experience. So when users are landing on your website, how to improve their experience, and how they move through from one point to the next on your website. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. I'm going to touch on some of the platforms that you should be looking at, or how to make a decision about which platform to use to build your website. And yeah, we're going to just cover what you should be including, what you shouldn't be including, what you might want to include, and any questions or any comments that you want to chime in on along the way, please use the chat box and let me know, because I'm happy to hear from you and kind of customize this and tailor it to what you want to hear about. I made my notes. I plan out these chats ahead of time to say what I want to say, but I definitely leave room for your engagement and your questions and your comments. So let's start. Why is it important to even have a website up these days? If that's still a question that's being asked, let's answer it. So having a website, I like to say these days, is like being in the yellow pages or being in the phone book. So those people who were never in the phone book or weren't listed, and it was like they just didn't exist. That's sort of how how websites have filled that gap in phone books and things like that. So let's say a student comes to your studio or a studio that you teach at, and they only know your name. They know your name and maybe the studio name, and then they want to know more about you. They want to know more about what workshops you have coming up. They loved your class. They want to know when you're teaching again. That's why it's really great to have websites up and have an online presence, because people are using Google and search engines to find and seek the people that they want to be learning from. They seek people out that way, and people Google everything. And I think even, people going on dates and things now, you can like Google your date beforehand and see what internet smack is out there. So it's really important to start thinking about an online presence, especially if you don't already have a website up, because people do use that and people do reference that often. I use it all of the time. And when I'm looking up someone who I've maybe met or just crossed paths with, or if I've come across on social media, and I want to know more about what they offer. I want to know more about how I can learn from them. I want to know more about what content they have available, what services they provide, and I'm going to go Google their name. So having a website up is it's crucial for helping you with that online presence and search engine optimization, so that people can find you when they want to reach out or when they want to get in touch with you. Because again, people don't really look at phone books anymore. People don't, pick up, even just phone numbers in general are something that is a last resort for a lot of people now. People use email, and people use online forums, and people use online contact forms that they can easily fill out. So making it super easy for people to find you and get in touch with you, that's the purpose of having a website, and a really great website up at that. So when you're just starting, or if you've got your first website online, it's really important that you just start super simple. So I like to even tell yoga teachers particularly that I work with, or clients of mine who maybe don't have a full budget to work with me to design a full website for them. We just work together to put up one landing page, which is literally just a way for you to, if you're just getting started and you're like, I need a website, but I don't know what to put on it. I don't know how to put the time into designing full pages and a full website design. I don't have the budget to hire a designer. Put one landing page up that has your name or your company name, your social media, maybe links, and a brief little kind of blurb about what you do and how people can follow up with you. Just one landing page, it's called. And a landing page, if I'm using that word, it's a little bit of a lingo word, is a way of saying like a page that your user lands on, and typically that's the home page. So people land typically on a home page of a website, and that's what I'm referring to when I say landing page. So having one page in place, even with just your name and your contact and your domain name, some quick way for people to look you up and they're like, oh, that's her. yep, she does yoga. She has her social media links here. I can follow up with her at this email address. Perfect. If that's the base and the starting point that you need to go to, then that's better than nothing. That's better than not having anything up. So that's a great place to start. And it's a great place to start and then build the back end as you go. Okay, so let's dive into talking about planning your website. I'm looking up here because I've got another screen. So this is where I've got my notes. So as you start to think about planning out your website, and this is a really important step. So let's take one step back actually. If you've put up a website and you sort of just willy-nilly'd it and you just went at it one weekend and you kind of put it together, that's okay. But it's really important to now go back and start a planning phase even now. Even if it's already up, go through your planning process, because that's really, really important in trying to drive home the purpose of your website and trying to make it as effective as possible at taking your visitors. So visitors who land on your site, we have something called a bounce rate, and it's a Webby term. And a bounce rate is the percentage or the amount of people who land on your homepage and then just immediately kind of bounce. They land there, they're like, nope, not for me, or nope, don't like it, close. And they close the tab or they go to another link. So we want to do our best to kind of minimize our bounce rate. We want to keep people moving through our website and wanting to learn more. And we want to convert people from visitors to either email subscribers or social media followers or clients and customers and students. So we want to make sure that we've got our planning process down nice and tight so that we have put purpose into our website. We've made a plan to get people through our website, and then that's being effective. We're using that properly and it's working effectively. So for planning your website, first and foremost, we want to explore what platform we want to use to build our site. There's so many out there now. The top two kind of in the industry of design right now is Squarespace and WordPress. And those are definitely the two that I go to. Those are the two that I use for my clients almost all the time, unless they have a really custom design or development need. So there's also Wix and Weebly, and you can build it through GoDaddy Builder, and you can use all of these different things. Why I always go back to Squarespace and WordPress is because they have flexibility and there's so much support and ability to customize on these two platforms. So Squarespace is definitely a lot more user-friendly. The learning curve is a lot less. Everything's kind of a one-stop shop for Squarespace. You don't have to host your website on some other platform. You don't have to get a domain name if you don't want to through another platform. You can do it all in Squarespace. And Squarespace has really inherently beautifully designed templates or themes. And the only kind of downfall to Squarespace really is that some people say it's not as customizable, and it's not really. But if you're a beginner and you're not a web designer like myself, the ability of being able to customize your site is only going to be kind of limited to what Squarespace offers anyways. So I always use Squarespace when I'm dealing with a client who super wants to keep it basic and not kind of tech heavy. But WordPress is also can be really user-friendly if you can learn and take the time to go through the learning curve. So WordPress, because it's an open source software, there's tons of themes and templates. Like Squarespace is limited to what they offer. WordPress is open to the world to create templates. So there's so many. So really it's up to you. Pricing is pretty similar across both of them. And I would direct you to the Facebook group after this chat. Go back to the Facebook group. If you go into the Files tab at the top, you'll see a Files tab along the top part of our group. And if you drop into there, there's past live chats. And I did a whole chat on Squarespace versus WordPress. So definitely check that out and see so that you can decide and make a better informed decision about what platform you want to be using. Next, you want to explore your theme or the template that you want to use. So go through, I always say don't get too overwhelmed or don't get too caught up in choosing the most perfect theme or anything. Go through and make a decision that feels best for you and has the features and the layouts that you want. But don't get too caught up in that you're standing still and you're frozen and not making any progress because you can't decide on a theme. And then next, you want to plan out the purpose of your website. So what's the goal? There's a couple of common goals for websites. Number one, the most kind of desired goal is that we want our visitors to become clients. We want our visitors to become students of ours. The next goal is we want our visitors to become email subscribers, or we want our visitors to become social media followers. And the goal, you can have all of those goals be part of your website. Maybe your goal is just to let people know what you offer. Maybe your goal is just so that you can have somewhere to direct people to a services page, or your goal is just to direct people to find out information about your business, your yoga business. You can have all of these goals and they can all work for you, but we should focus heavily on one or the other. And of course, we all kind of immediately jump to focusing on converting people from visitors into clients or students. We want that's our main goal of our website, is that we want more students and we want to be kind of growing our business. But is it maybe an effective goal to have your focus be on that? Or should your goal be on converting them into email subscribers so that you can start to warm up that audience, or getting them onto your social media so they can start following along more consistently? Is it to showcase your blog or your knowledge about yoga? So find a purpose that is going to be really effective in eventually converting people into students or clients. And if that's upfront and immediate and you want that goal to be your main purpose, that's totally fine. And you can build your website around that goal. But just start thinking about kind of the process of getting people from just stumbling upon your website to warming up to who you are, to getting more like of a consistent flow of information from you, whether that's social media or blogs or your email list, and then maybe being a customer or a client because they feel like that relationship has been nurtured and that they trust you to provide for them. So yeah, you definitely want to plan out and think kind of more intentionally about a purpose for your website. Then you want to make a list of what to include on your website. What pages do you need? What content should you have on there? What's important to include? What's not so important to include? So make a list of the pages that you need or you want to have showcased on your website. And I've got a couple here that I wanted to go over. So the standard pages that we see across yoga websites are the homepage or the landing page, an about page. So a page that describes who you are, what your philosophies are, what you're about, just a place for people to get some of your personality. Then a services page or an offerings page or something along those lines. Usually a schedule page if you have a consistent teaching schedule, either at a studio or out of your home or wherever. If you have a consistent place for people to show up, or an events or workshop page, that's pretty standard. And then you can either have, and then you have your contact page. So those are the 5 kind of standards that you see across a yoga website. And your contact page is really just a spot that has your email address, your phone number, if you want to include that, and hopefully a contact form. So those are the 5 kind of standards, but let's talk about a few additional ones that you could think about including or that might apply to you or might not. So we have the blog, and a blog is really great for helping optimize your search engine kind of viewing. So when you post consistent content and you're posting consistent articles and posts on a blog, you're kind of putting more out into the interwebs. And so people are able to kind of like find that easier on search engines. And if you're using particular content or particular topics and that's kind of your niche or that's where you want people to find you by, that's a really great avenue to be bringing people into your website. But a blog is a lot of maintenance. It takes a lot to write consistent posts. And to me, what I usually say to my clients is that if you aren't using it consistently and you aren't posting, then I'd rather see it I just rather wouldn't see it. I would rather not see it than see a post from like 2013 as being your most recent post. Because that just kind of says that you haven't been maintaining it and the information might not be current. And it's better if you can maintain it consistently. There are ways on some templates and some themes to remove the dates, which is a really good option if you're not a consistent poster. Take the dates right out of it. But a blog is helpful to be able to showcase your knowledge, to be able to build that credibility with your audience and your visitors, and just really be consistently giving out good value. Then the next page that you could include is a credentials page. So what your qualifications are, what programs you've taken, what teacher trainings you've taken, and that sort of thing. And that can be a standalone page if you're really, you've got lots of credentials and you want that to be kind of upfront and center. But you can also just loop that in. I've seen that a lot separate, but you could just loop that in with your about page if you want to keep it really kind of concise and short and sweet. which I would recommend if you have a lot of content on your website. If you want to include credentials, which is a good idea if you want to build kind of trust and credibility for your audience, then put it in or loop it in with your about page. I've also seen a whole page dedicated to testimonials or client kind of reviews, and that's awesome. People love to see that because it's a testament to you as a teacher and your experience. And so if you've got testimonials, it's great to have a page dedicated to that. If you want to include it, but you don't want to put it right up there on the top navigation menu, what I do for my design company, at least on my website, is I put my testimonials in throughout my pages. So when people are looking at my profile or my services page, there's little testimonials thrown in everywhere so that it's kind of scattered, but you can totally put a whole page dedicated to it. And like I was saying, if you don't want it in the top navigation, you can put it in like the footer. You can usually put a footer menu into your website. You could put it down there just so that if people make it to the bottom, it's there. Or if you want to link people who are asking questions, if you have any references and you want to send them that page, you can do that as well. The other one is a resources page. So if you have resources or if you're an affiliate marketer, which I'm not going to get into, but if you are one, then you know what it is. But if you have affiliate links or you have discount codes for, you're an ambassador for a brand like InnerFire or something like that, you could include a resources page, and you can put a little disclaimer saying, I'm an affiliate for this company, but I really love it, or blah, 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 and include your links there, or include just a list of resources for people that might be looking for resources and tips and tricks for yoga. So I've seen that done as well. Also an FAQ page, so frequently asked questions by people who are emailing you all the time about particular questions. Turn that into an FAQ page, and then you can just link people right to that page when they ask kind of, email questions come in. And I put up an FAQ page on my design website recently, and it's really saved that back and forth or kind of just emails that come in or that are just a quick question that, they can find really easily now on my website. And then also, this is a big one, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later, but price list. So if you have a price list that you want to include as a separate standalone page, that's a really good idea as well, if that's something that you're going to put up on your website. So make a list of those pages that you want to include and why you're including them, and be really intentional about those decisions. And then what you want to do is you want to write out your content. So go through each page that you have and write out the content and the copy that you're going to include for that web page, and do that in a word processor or like Microsoft Word, or I use Google Docs usually, and I can spell check and everything in there. So write it out in a place that you can just initially get your thoughts on paper. And then as you start to input that on your website, that's when you can start to kind of filter it out or shorten it if it doesn't look necessarily kind of put together on your website as a big block of text. You can format it properly when you put it into the website. And you want to just make sure you're reviewing your copy, edit, get someone else to read it, get a few other people to read it, and just see how you're using those words and how you're captivating your audience through your text. And then gather the imagery that you need for your website. So for each page, go through and make a list of some of the pictures that you think you need to include or that you'll want to include on those pages. And this is where I really want to quickly talk about using good imagery. So using either, if you don't have the budget to hire a photographer, then that's fine. You can take really good pictures yourself if you use really good lighting, especially if you're using like an iPhone or a smartphone. Definitely you need lots of lighting. So take them during the day and get maybe even extra lighting if you can, because that's going to take away that grainy, blurry, low light imagery that I see too often. And it drives me kind of nuts because a website design is really nothing without good imagery. And if you've got a friend that has a picture, or you have a friend that's willing to come and take some pictures of you, even better. Just, buy them a drink or something, or, do something for them in return and ask them to kind of spend an hour or two with you taking some pictures for your website. If you don't have that option, then you can use stock photos. There's really great stock photography out there, and you can get a list or ask for some references in the Facebook group if you want some links. But there's the good stock imagery, and then there's the ones that are just they're just painfully cheesy. And I want you to try and avoid the painfully overused cheesy stock photography, especially for yoga. You have to be really careful, I think, when you're using stock photography in the yoga business, because number one, you want to make sure you're being inclusive and you're being mindful about the imagery that you're using and how you're portraying your brand and your business using that imagery. And then number two is that you want to make sure that everything's kind of aligned properly. And I think a lot of stock models for yoga, like I've seen a bunch that are not, like I wouldn't practice that way, or I don't think it looks safe or something like that. And you want to be just really mindful about when you're using and choosing stock photography. So just a quick note about that. And then what you want to do to plan is you want to go through each page and you want to plan your actual layout and the hierarchy of information. So basically, this is kind of common sense, but it sometimes helps to hear it. When people are landing on a page, they're more likely to intake the top information, the information at the top, and less likely to scroll down. So always include your important information at the top of your page. Anything that you want to call attention to, or that's why the navigation is up there. Anything that you want to use to captivate your audience to stick around, keep it at the top, and then plan your hierarchy of information so that the less important stuff is lower to the footer of the web page. Because and I do actually reporting on this for my own website. I've got, plugins in place that track how many people who start at the top make it down to the bottom. And the percentage is way less at the bottom. They always kind of read or skim the top part and then they'll move on. So to either the next page or wherever. So definitely plan your information so that the most important parts are at the top of your page. So that about kind of gives you a good overview of how to start planning your website and making sure that you're going through that process of making it really intentional. And these things all count. They all matter. And the more that you implement them, the more you'll see that they actually do. I used to think like, if people want to be on my website, they'll be on my website and they'll just use it and they'll figure it out and they'll find what they're looking for. And it's nice to think that, but it's not the case. And ever since once I started implementing and focusing on the user experience design of my website and really doing that reporting and tracking of who's using what and how they're using it and how they're viewing it and heat maps and all of this stuff, which I'm not saying you should do, but I've started to do that on my website so I could better understand web design. And since I've started doing that, I've noticed that it really does make a difference. Where you place your email subscribe button makes a difference to how many subscribers you're going to get. Where you place information that's important is going to make a difference about who sees it and how many people read it. So it's important to start thinking about this and going through that planning process really kind of intentionally and working through it so that you know your website purpose and you know how people are using your website, because you're building your website for your audience. It's not for you. It's for visitors and it's for your audience and it's for people who want to learn more about you. So you need to be building it with that in mind, with that focus in mind. And let's just quickly touch a little bit on user experience design and the flow of your website. So how we can start to improve that engagement and how we can start to focus on making it a really good user-friendly website. So you want to first and foremost improve your content. Your content is the foundation of your whole website. That means that you want really short and concise copy on text on your website. I love the idea of thinking that people are going to take 20 minutes to read your about page and they want to learn so much about you that they want to eat it all up. But that's not the case. They want really short and concise information. They're not going to stick around for 20 minutes to read through a novel of an about page or a novel of your services page. They just want to know what you can do for them and how you can do it and what you're all about. So as short and concise as you can do that, the better. So try and keep it really limited in your text. And you want to use really captivating imagery, like I said. So ditching that kind of cheesy, stock, overdone, low light image, bad quality images. Make sure that your content is really good. So that's the first and foremost important thing for user design experience, because if people land on a website and it looks awful and it's got spelling mistakes and they have to dig through so much content to figure out what it is that you do or how you can help them, they are not sticking around to leave. Like you have I think 3 seconds or something less than that even now online to capture an audience and to captivate someone to stick around. That's really low. And you need to use good content and make sure you're focused on that to keep them sticking around. Even, I'm sure you've done it before. Like I've done it lots of times where I've gone to a website and it either takes so long to load because the images are huge, or I get there and it's terrible, or I see a spelling mistake and I'm out. I will close the tab, which sounds really kind of ruthless, but like it's important that you focus on providing really good user experience for your audience. You're providing even a service by having that up. So you want it to be really easy for them. It's a testament again to how you do your business. and your brand. It's a testament to who you are as a brand. And so it's really important. So put some energy and time into creating really nice and good flowing copy and really captivating imagery. Next is your navigation menu. So that's the menu at the top that has kind of home, about, all of those things. A couple of quick tips and tricks for you about that is I don't ever now include a home tab if the logo clicks to home. It's really intuitive these days that people just know to click on the logo to get to the home page. And so you don't need to take up space on your nav bar by putting a home tab on there. So I say just leave it out. Just ditch the home tab and let them get to the homepage through the logo clicking or the word mark clicking. And then I usually say to stick to a maximum of 6 links in the top nav bar. If you can get it shorter than that, even better. And the way to do that is to have drop-down links. So for example, my About page, if you hover over the About section of my website, it drops down into Meet Danielle, FAQs, and my process. So everything about me and my company is in that About section. And I have put together a Work With Me page. Instead of a services page, I've got one link at the top that says Work With Me, and that drops down into my price list, into my services, and how they can kind of work with me through that. So for a yoga business, yoga website, you could have a services or a Work With Me tab at the top that drops down into your services or your packages, your options or your offerings, and then your price list, and then your schedule. You could even put your schedule housed under Work With Me, your events and workshops or something like that. So figure out how you want to arrange your maximum of 6 navigation menus, because nothing's worse than getting to a website and just being bombarded with like 10 links at the top, not knowing where to start. Like, you don't want people to have to dig through things to find what they want. Make it really clear, really clean, and use the drop-down features to make sure that you're housing other pages underneath so that you don't have a ton of links across the top of your page. And then the next thing is buttons. Use buttons throughout your pages to get people flowing from one page to the next. So you don't want just random buttons. So you don't want to read, an About page on your yoga website. So say it's about you as a yoga teacher, and then the button says, who knows, like see my resources or something like that. Make sure it flows. So if someone's, landing on the About page, maybe you want a button that says, how can you work with me? Or see how you can work with me. And that takes them to the Work With Me page. And then on the Work With Me page, it links them to the price list. And then the price list links them to Contact You Now. So use that flow of using buttons intentionally as well. Again, with the FAQ page, that's a really great way for user design experience to cut back on those kind of little tedious emails of questions that people might have for you. I put one up and it's really been helpful to be able to direct people there. The price list, I know it kind of feels cringy to be putting your price online and putting it up front and center, but if you have a standard price list for your services, people will love you for putting that up online. And I recently put up a price list on my design services, which I never used to have. It used to be a kind of by project, per project base, like I would just give a quote. And that having a price list online has saved me so much time in creating proposals, answering emails, and the tension and anxiety that I had about people asking, okay, so how much is this going to cost me, has been totally relieved by having a price list online. Because having a price list, I can just say, here are my prices. This is it for everybody. I'm not trying to, scam you over someone else. This is the price list, and this is how you can work with me. If you have that ability, I definitely recommend putting that out there. I know, though, that some people's offerings, it's better to customize and it's better to do one-on-one or individually, and that's totally fine too. That might be just something to think about down the line. It's just been really helpful, and it helps people just see what my offerings are. And then the people who do email me, I know that they've already seen that, and I know that they're serious because they've already tackled the pricing hurdle and they have accepted that and taken another step forward. So that just has saved so much time and energy for me. It's a huge, huge user experience win for what I've experienced. So again, something to think about. A contact form. So if people land on your contact page, it's great if you have your email there or your phone number. But if you can take it a step further and provide a contact form for them where they can just fill it in there and send it off to your inbox, even better. Saves them the step of copying and pasting your email into their email provider, typing in a subject, figuring out what they want their subject to be, and then typing out their message and sending it to you. Those are all a bunch of steps doing the same thing as just putting a contact form that they can easily put their question in and get it out to your inbox right from your web page. If you're a physical location like a studio, having your map on there integrated into your webpage or your contact page is awesome. And just making sure that you're making it really clear about hours and things like that, so that people who land on your website are getting the information that they want and that they came there for really quickly and really easily. That's the goal of user experience design. So we just covered a whole bunch in 32 minutes. And I know that you'll be able to get the replay of this if you want to watch it again and take notes, or you want to go through the steps again. But my main message here, the main thing I want you to take away from this, is that putting a website together in a couple of hours and just getting it online is a good start. It's great, but you really should be going back and going through these steps and making sure that all of your decisions and all of your website is flowing into a really intentional purpose, and that everything's working really well to captivate your visitors and keep them kind of engaged on your website. Like I said, at first, when I first entered into the industry of web design, I was like, if it's good content and if people have good businesses, then people will just stick around on their website and figure out what they need to do. And it's not that important. And then as I started to implement my own processes for user experience design, through my reporting and how I've tracked things, it makes a huge difference. And it does work to focus on these things. And it does work to optimize your website in the best way possible. And the way people read your website is, top down, and you have seconds to engage them. So putting time and energy and maybe investing even some money into good imagery or design on your website is a huge step in the right direction. And it's just really important for your online presence and for coming across as a professional and quality brand in your yoga business. So I think I've covered everything that I wanted to do. I don't think we have any questions, but if you do have questions, then definitely let me know. I wanted to mention that there's a whole module in the online yoga branding workshop over at youryogabrand.com /workshop, where you can click the workshop tab. There's a whole module at the end of this workshop. It's module 5, and it's dedicated to website design and building a really effective yoga website. And it goes through these steps in a lot more detail, and it goes through these steps with demos and tutorials and a bunch of different links for stock photography if you need that, or how to take better images. It goes through all of this in a really big way so that you can start to develop and create a really effective yoga business website. And like I said at the beginning, if you already have a website up, it's really important that you still go back and go through this process. And it's really important that you're constantly checking in. My website, I am tweaking and changing and assessing almost daily. And it sounds like a lot of work, but it's important to keep checking in to see what's working and what's not, and keep checking into how your users and your visitors are using your website. And like I said, it's not a website for you. It's for your viewers. It's for your visitors. It's for people who are using your website. So you want to make sure that you're optimizing it to the best way, the best functionality possible. And the workshop, so I put it in the offers, but at youryogabrand.com /workshop, I've recently put together the payment plan option for the workshop, which I think is really awesome for lessening that burden. It ends up being a much less amount of money per month. So you can almost take it in as like a monthly expense for a couple of months instead of just paying for everything up front. You now have the option to take it on as a monthly expense for a few months versus just a one lump sum. So definitely check that out, youryogabrand.com /workshop. You can check out the whole module 5 that I've explained about the website building. And if you have any questions at all about this whole chat or website building in general, then you know where to find me. I'm over in the Facebook group. Your Facebook, it's Build Your Brand, a yoga teachers community. And it's the Build Your Brand Facebook group that I've been mentioning throughout this chat, where you can find me and tag me, ask your questions. There's over 400 other teachers currently in there that are supporting one another on this whole process. So you can tag me and ask questions there. Otherwise, I would love to see you in the workshop, or at least for another live chat. So check out the website, youryogabrand.com, for upcoming chats as well. All right. Thank you so much for sticking with me. And for those of you on the replay, I hope you got value as well. I'm sorry you can ask questions live, but you do know that you always have me in the Facebook group to go over to, especially if you're watching the replay and you need somewhere to ask your questions. All right, everybody, have a good morning, day, evening, night, wherever you are, and I will talk to you soon.